it's Reagan, and today I'm here to do a huge February book haul. And you know, I'm not even sorry about it. I'm part of the Avid Readers Club per my t-shirt. No, but seriously, I love books and I love to read. I love collecting books. I got a lot of books this month because there was a lot of incredible books that came out recently. So there it is. There we are. That's the reason. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and dive right in. So the first three books I'm going to show off were all inspired by Books-A-Mino. As you guys know, I'm a huge fan of Books-A-Mino, and I'm actually working with them for this video. Books-A-Mino is one of my favorite apps, but it's kind of part of a larger like Aminos community. Essentially, there's Amino for whatever interest you're interested in, from writing to photography to art to anything. I obviously personally really enjoy the bookish one because, again, I'm part of the Avid Readers Club. T-shirt is so convenient. The Bookish Aminos app is honestly just awesome. It's full of reviews from users posting about newly released books to just past favorite books. There's polls, there's quizzes, and now there's some newer features like voice chat and live chat. Really, really awesome. But not only is there like a general Bookish Amino section, there's also specific fandom related Aminos you can follow, from like Shadowhunters to Harry Potter, which is a smaller sub community where essentially you can just fangirl about Harry Potter in like one nice little place on an app on your phone. But essentially there are three books that I have had my eye on that I read reviews on Books-A-Mino, which finally pushed me to get them. So that's where we're at. So without further ado, let's just dive into those books because they're so good. So the first book I'm going to talk about is Everlist by Sarah Holland. I mentioned this book in my most anticipated books of 2018, and that hasn't changed. This is a dark YA fantasy novel that's basically centered around time being a currency. And this is a world where essentially people can sell their life or their time to people if they so desire, and this obviously leads to a system of the rich taking very much advantage of the poor. We follow our main character Jules, who was once part of a grand estate but escaped with her father, but then her father is seemingly running out of time, so she has to go back and basically confront a whole bunch of scary, terrifying obstacles to try to save her father. Again, this dark fantasy world kind of centering around time as the main like control point just sounds incredibly interesting to me, and I couldn't say no. The reviews were also good. The next book is just a yes from me on all levels, okay? And that is Truly Devious by Maureen Johnson. This book just sounds incredible. It's not even fantasy. Just wait. Is set in a prestigious private academy in Vermont, which honestly is a buzzword for me. I love like private school settings, especially like boarding school settings. This school has like a great mystery tied to it. Basically, shortly after the school was opened, the tycoon who established the school's wife and daughter are kidnapped, and there's like a mocking riddle left on the school property. The crime has never been solved. It's one of like the biggest American crimes. And then years later, crime aficionado Stevie Bell is set to start her first year at this academy, and it looks to try to uncover its secrets. Again, the dark and mysterious boarding school situation had me hook, line, and sinker. This book is also getting incredible reviews. I was so excited to see it both on Books-A-Mino and just like in the world. And the next book I have to show off is Sight Witch by Susan Dennard. This is just, again, one of the books I was really anticipating this year. I'm a huge fan of the Witchlands series, and this is a novella, I believe, that's taking place after Truth Witch and Wind Witch and before Blood Witch, and we follow a new character, and it's illustrated and it's beautiful and it has deckled edges. Obviously I'm dying for Blood Witch, but I also feel like getting a little novella following a great character is beneficial until we can finally get Blood Witch. So exciting news. I know I just talked through each of these books, but I'm actually hosting a giveaway with Books-A-Mino over on my Instagram, so one of you guys actually has a chance to win these three books. So just go ahead and follow me on there. I'll be giving more information on my Insta stories. I'll have it pinned to my homepage as well, so you'll always be able to find it, but it's gonna be super easy to enter. More info there, so if you want free books, check that out. Next book I'm gonna show off, I don't know if I've hauled. I bought this in early January, and I was thinking about it last night, and I'm like, I don't think I ever showed anyone that. And it's The Name of the Wind, the collector's edition, the anniversary edition. I bought it because I'm a weak soul that just needs to own every edition of this book. It's so beautiful. It has red pages, it has illustrations, it has all sorts of things that makes me want to reread this whole book. I love it. It's just so beautiful. Lin-Manuel Miranda has a quote on the back of here. If you haven't read The Name of the Wind, check out this edition. It's super cool. It's very cool. It feels like you're really reading a tome. It's quite majestic. The next book I picked up this month was the Tempest and Slaughter by Tamora Pierce. This was a very exciting new release. I'm a big fan of Tamora Pierce. I read all of her books growing up. And this is a new, kind of more YA-centered focused fantasy by Tamora, and again, oh my god, and it's a collector's edition. There's a poster inside of here. Honestly, I bought this book really not knowing much of what it was about. I knew the author, I knew it was fantasy, I knew that, and that was all I really needed to know for a Tamora Pierce book. But the back says, 3 student mages bound by fate, fated for danger. So I think this is a 3-perspective fantasy novel of 3 magic students, which again, student setting, magic, fate, fantasy, Tamora Pierce. Honestly, I don't need to know any more than that. I am so excited to pick this up. I think this is going to be incredible. I've already seen amazing reviews. This is my kind of book. The next book I'm going to show off is the February Perustopia Book Club Pick of the Month for the month of February, and this month we are working with HMH Teen, and that book is Ever the Brave by Erin Cyril. Last year, Sasha and I read Ever the Haunted, the first book to this series, and we really enjoyed it, and honestly, I know this isn't a wrap up, but I liked the second one even more. This book basically takes place directly after the events of the first one and is a sequel, so I will avoid being spoilery in the synopsis. This is a YA fantasy story that definitely takes a lot of inspiration from fairy tales, and we have a very traditional, like, medieval magical setting, which is a lot of fun. This is a 3-perspective fantasy story. We follow our main character, Britta, who is my fave. She's like a hunter. She's like a tracker, a hunter, a bow and arrow expert, and she just wants to like live her life, but unfortunately there is a new and dangerous threat that is impending their kingdom, and these 3 people have to work together to solve that. Again, I really liked this installment of this series. I thought it was great. The cover is also beautiful. Next book I picked up was The Immortal Reign by Morgan Rhodes. This is the 6th and final book to the Fallen Kingdom series. I feel like I'm reading this book series for so long, and I've already read this book this month. I enjoyed it. Obviously, again, synopsis of a 6th book in a series is a little difficult to give, but just know the Fallen Kingdom series is a multi-perspective YA fantasy. We follow a lot of different characters from different kingdoms that both neighbor each other and hate each other. It's a very political novel that has a lot of magic, a lot of plot twists, and it's a lot of fun. There's also a very entertaining and addicting romance throughout this series. I enjoyed this series quite a lot. Yeah, so obviously I had to pick this up because it came out this month. It was an anticipated read. The next book I got is Kristen Hanna's The Great Alone, and honestly I was so excited to get this because Kristen Hanna wrote The Nightingale, which is one of my favorite historical fiction books of all time. It is beautiful and touching and incredible. So when she was releasing another historical fiction book, I did not hesitate to get it. And this novel is set in Alaska in 1974, and this follows a family in crisis who has moved to Alaska, and it's basically them facing the ultimate test of survival. Again, Kristen Hanna's previous book that I read and loved, she did an incredible job of writing both familial conflict with very distinct perspectives of people who are passionate about things that might be disparate from each other. She's great at writing strength in a lot of different forms, and I feel like this is going to be an incredible story. I've already heard really good things about it. I know it involves perspectives on the Vietnam War as well. So all of those things said, I really want to read this book. The next book, oh my goodness, just sounds like everything I love in the world, and it's The Philosopher's Flight by Tom Miller. On the cover it says half science, half magic, entirely fantastic, and again, I didn't need to hear much more than that. But this is an alternate historical fantasy story set at the turn of the century, and this is basically a world where women have the ability to use magic, but generally just women are the most powerful magicians, but they're still ostracized in a lot of social ways that we would see historically at the turn of the century. Our main character is 18-year-old Robert, and he discovers that he has magical powers. So then he leaves to go to an all-female college to basically hone his skills. This novel sounds awesome, and I've heard really great things about this. This book does a really great job of understanding and flipping gender dynamics. This is a world where women are incredibly powerful, but their power is also kind of viewed as arcane and old school and not the future. So they're both powerful, but still ostracized, and our main character Robert, going to this all-female college and basically gaining more of an understanding, he begins to see the inequality in all of these things. Again, I've heard really great things about this book. I hear it's whimsical, a lot of fun, but also has a lot to say, which I always enjoy to read about. And the next book I got is The Remains of the Day by Kazu Ishiguro. And I just decided to pick this up because I've heard incredible things. I mean, this is one of the most famous books of all time. It's a really beautiful edition. I couldn't say no. The synopsis of this book is so small. Like, look at that. Apparently, The Remains of the Day is a profoundly compelling portrait of the perfect English butler in his fading, insular world in post-war England. So that sounds very interesting. I honestly don't really want to know much going into this book. It's very, very short, and I've heard that it's quite an impactful novel. And obviously, it's been praised for so long for a lot of reasons, so I just picked it up. The last stack of books I got from Book Outlet, I've already showed them in an unboxing video, but I'm gonna quickly run through them anyway. The first one is Rose Under Fire by Elizabeth Wein. It's the second book to Codename Verity. I actually already own this book in hardcover, but I wanted to get the magic paperback. This is an amazing World War II female-centered story. I absolutely loved Codename Verity, and this sequel follows a pilot named Rose who's shot down and sent to a concentration camp. Elizabeth Wein writes incredibly powerful stories, and also I really enjoy the female-centered stories that she has in World War II. I really loved the first one. I want to read the second one. Next up, I was feeling like I wanted to read something a little summery, so I picked up The Unexpected Everything by Morgan Matson. This is just a fun summer contemporary that I kind of been craving. It's been cold and I just want to read something lighthearted. This follows our main character Andy, who has her whole life planned out. She has the perfect internship lined up, the perfect friends, but everything in her life is kind of put on its head when her dad experiences a political scandal, and now she finds herself as a dog walker. There's a pug on the cover. I don't know, it sounds really, really cute. I love Morgan Matson's books. I love Morgan Matson on Instagram, so I got it. The next two books are two Kendar Blake books. I love Kendar Blake. I love her Three Dark Crown series, so I wanted to read more books by her. The first book I picked up was Anna Dressed in Blood. This is a favorite, I feel like, from a while ago. I was hesitant to pick it up previously because I'm not a fan of horror, but this honestly sounds so cool and unique. This follows our main character Cass, who is a ghost hunter, and he basically travels around the world, America, with his spirit sniffing cat, which intrigues me to no end. And at the start of the story, he stumbles upon Anna, who is haunting this mansion and is still wearing the dress in which she was brutally murdered in. And she is an incredibly difficult ghost that basically kills anyone who steps inside of the building. She happens to be the biggest mystery he has encountered. But then it's this like boy meets girl story, so do they fall in love? I don't know, but I want to find out. Or does she kill him? That's the question. Next book I picked up was also Anti-Goddess, the first book in the Goddess War series by Kendar Blake. This is basically a paranormal story where the gods who are supposed to be immortal are now dying from some disease, and all the gods are freaking out, and Athena is basically trying to solve this, and she stumbles upon our main character who doesn't know anything about the gods but is apparently the key and their savior in this, and she's like the anti-goddess. I don't know much more than that. I love a good paranormal god, Greek mythology centered story. Again, big fan of Kendar Blake. I picked it up. And the last two books I'm gonna show off in this book haul are both by the same author. The first one being The Bound List by Kenneth Opel. This is a middle grade train murder mystery story. And that just sounded so dang fun to me, I just could not say no. This is set entirely on a train in the early turn of the century as it like hurtles across the continent, and there something tragic happens and our main character is trying to figure out who and why. It's kind of like a middle grade Agatha Christie book. It just sounds like a lot of fun, and I've heard really good things. The cover is also beautiful, and I just think I'm excited about it. A train mystery? Yes. And I also picked up Skybreaker by Kenneth Opel in the newly released covers. This is the sequel to Airborne. I don't own Airborne, but I'm working on it. This also just sounds like an incredibly interesting series. The first one, Airborne, is actually a pretty famous novel. I think it won the Prince. Airborne is set again in an alternate history where essentially airplanes were never invented, but instead Zeppelins were and are the main form of transportation. This is also a world of like a whole bunch of new like biological creatures were created because of this. Everyone lives and works on these giant ships in the sky, and the first novel follows our main character who is a servant on like a luxurious ship, and there the adventure starts from there. I was a huge fan of Leviathan by Scott Westerfeld growing up, which also kind of has this like living on an airship kind of situation, and I really enjoyed it. So the premise of these really just spoke to me, so I got the second one when I found it for an affordable price, so yes. Alrighty guys, that is my giant February book haul. Again, I am hosting that giveaway on my Instagram, so go ahead and follow me down there if you're interested in learning more. But I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you soon with another one soon. Goodbye!